Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition for a classic album inspection. 14th of May 1977 saw the Sophomore album by Heart, Little Queen released, so it's 45 years old today. So this wasn't actually supposed to be their sophomore album. They'd done Dreamboat Annie, and then they'd started recording a magazine album, I think, for the Mushroom label. They'd fallen out with the label and had sort of legal wrangles with them. They also weren't happy with how they were depicted in an advert, I believe. I could have this wrong. Both the Wilson sisters suggesting they had a lesbian relationship. So they got out of the Mushroom deal, but Mushroom still had the rights to the magazine album, and they put it out, I think. But it wasn't right. So Hart kind of agreed to finish it, record the stuff, pardon me. And then that came out in 78. So that was intended to be the second album, but wasn't. They signed a portrait. There's various legal wrangles. So it's actually quite a while before this came out. I mean, May 77, Dreamboat Annie's November 75 on the Mushroom label. Then its US release was in February, I think, 76. So it might not seem like a long time now, but you probably would have expected a new album from Hart back end of 76, early 77. So it was recorded between February and April 77 at K Smith Studios in Seattle. It was produced by Mike Flicker, who was their sort of producer and also did orchestral arrangements, I think. It's 3 times platinum. It made number 9 in the US charts. And it starts with and contains probably the definitive Hart track, the all-time classic Barracuda. So this is one of the heaviest Hart tracks. Hart are a rock band, but they're not very heavy. Generally, they have a lot of folk influences, pop, sort of country rock, so when they do rock out, they can rock pretty hard, but there's kind of a blend, really, like Led Zeppelin. It's a phenomenal vocal from Ann Wilson. It's got a gallop copying Achilles' Last Stand by Led Zeppelin. Really cool odd time section at the end in 7/4. Nice harmonics with the phaser on, Roger Fisher does. I think on these early Hart recordings you realise sort of how important the chemistry was of the classic lineup. I mean, Michael DeRosier's, he's not a technically great drummer, but he's just got a feel in a little pocket that's just right for Hart. I think Steve Fosson's quite underrated. He plays like really nice stuff, which we'll hear we'll talk about on the next track. And then Fisher's got a nice sort of Jimmy Page approach to guitar, but he's quite clean. He kind of has this slightly nasally strat sound, probably on the second pickup setting that I like, and he's quirky. He also co-wrote a lot of the stuff, which we'll come to. Obviously, Anne and Nancy need no introduction, and if Nancy does lead vocals, they're great anyway, but she does phenomenal backing vocals. Sometimes the sister Lynn would come in and do that. They'd all sing as kids, and then obviously Anne doesn't need any kind of talking about. We know how great she is. She's one of the greatest singers, or greatest in any gender genre. So Barracuda's absolute classic. Obviously, it was written in response to the advert I talked about before, and the treatment from XX in the record company, the sexism. And there's still issues, obviously, today. There'll probably be stuff coming out eventually, I'd imagine, about practice in the music industry in regards to how female artists are treated. But it's a great track, 4 minutes 20. It's an all-time radio rock classic. So that's written by Anne, Nancy, Roger, and Mike Flicker, I think. Really cool. 421 next, Love Alive. This is Anne and Nancy with Roger Fisher again. This has got a really nice little picked intro. It's great acoustic, probably from Nancy. Then you've got your Anne's vocal comes in. I love this track, the way it builds. It's got that great middle section with the tracked R's and U's. And this is where Steve Fosson's bass, he plays almost like a kind of funky James Jamerson thing, but his pocket's really good on it. And it's one of the things, the bass sound on this is really good. Hart records, they kind of sound, how to describe it, they sound like Hart. They're not overproduced, they're not underproduced. Later on they were kind of overproduced. I quite like I like their 80s stuff. I think I'm honest as well about Hart. I think, and that's the same as this album, the sound was kind of quite sort of dated a little bit. by the time it came out, there's still some sort of, to me, early 70s singer-songwriter country rock influence, and obviously early Zeppelin. And the production kind of reflects that. It's not as slick and polished as like the Eagles or Fleetwood Mac or of a rock band like Boston would be the comparison. So there's something sort of quite unique in that respect, how it fits in. Track 3's the Sylvan Song. So this is an instrumental using mandolins, obviously showing the Led Zeppelin influence. This is great, really good. It's Nancy and Roger Fisher, and they get and they harmonise. And then this builds up into Dream of the Archer, which is just a phenomenal... This is much better than Battle of Evermore. I know it's inspired by that. This is Anne, Nancy and Roger Fisher writing again, forming its 30. So it builds up into this track. I love this. I love the ethereal quality. I love the atmosphere it creates. It's like I'm sat in a wood with Anne and the plane and Nancy. Yeah, I wish. And it's just full of atmosphere. And I love the ending. And then Anne and Nancy and Roger Fisher track the mandolins at the layer harmonies on, and great credit to Mike Flicker here. It's really accurate performances. You know, you can hear they've really zoned in on like getting those parts absolutely tight and showing that sort of Queen influence really with a multi tracking. I don't know how many harmonies are stacked, but it's pretty impressive. So off the bat, the first 4 tracks just kill, slay. So side 1 finishes with Kick Out on track 5. This is a good heart rocker. I don't like as much as the other tracks, but again, it's a good kind of like nice feminist lyrics about a young girl who's a bit of a trouble in her town and just wants to break out and get out. And it's a cool lyric. 2 minutes 44, so it finishes that side 1 really good. Then side 2 opens with the title track, Little Queen. Again, this is quite funky, cool fuss and bass, nice groove by DeRosier. Nice sort of chopped guitars, which will kind of predate straight on off the Beverly Strange album. The whole band writes this. I think Howard Lees gets a credit on this as well. Always been a kind of quite interesting member, Howard Lees. He kind of became more prevalent as once Roger Fisher went, and then he got more prevalent. By the time I got into Heart, Howard Lees was very much the third wheel to me with his solos and presence. And it's got a nice breakdown in the middle of this, like cool harmonies, and it kind of switches groove. So track 7 is Treating Me Well. This is a kind of plaintive ballad sung by Nancy. Obviously Nancy's got a lovely voice as well. It's got a really slow 3/4 time, which is nice, and it breaks into 4/4 for the chorus for the really treat me well. Again, it's the kind of track, it's quite kind of, you can imagine it maybe being a more kind of 60s sound, very early 70s. So it's interesting that to me. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe people might have another take. It's 3:24. I'll give this track kind of 6 out of 10. It's a nice little album track. The next track's probably my least favourite, Sail Low. It's got a lengthy-ish 30-second intro of people kind of laughing and having a good time. And it's a jolly track with, a nice kind of chop chord sequence. I kind of quite like it. It's not my favourite track, but it's jolly. I should mention, actually, Treat Me Well's got another really cool string arrangement. Actually, it's a really excellent string arrangement on that, which lifts the track. Then track 9 is Cry to Me, which is Anne, a lovely ballad. Kind of nice use of a minor chord sequence like D minor, but then when it resolves the chord sequence, in the 4th bar, it goes to the D major. So it's doing this kind of major minor thing as it loops back round. This is a really good track. Lovely BVs on this as well. This is nice. This is like probably the best of these 3 kind of sort of softer tracks. And then this Cry to Me goes into Go On Cry, which is, it's got lyrics, but it's just saying go on cry and wailing, and then it's got oohs and ahs, layered back in vocals. It's kind of a slightly funky jam. I think this track works well. It's just a bit too long. It's about 5 minutes 52. It's weird. It's kind of an instrumental, really. So the back half of the album's quite kind of strange. It is front loaded, this album. I mean, like I say like, maybe not into Kick It Out as much, but it's still really good. Your first 6 tracks, it's just like belting. Is it as good as Dreamboat Annie? In some ways it is. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think Dreamboat Annie's better. I think sometimes Dreamboat Annie kind of suffers a little bit from having 3 Dreamboat Annies. Sometimes I prefer it if it had a different song. And then, was bookended, so to speak, would be really cool. And obviously this has got those first 4 tracks, you know, like and Barracuda, obviously, you know, it's the greatest, one of the great 70s rock songs, but I would say Dream About Annie's just that little bit better. But the thing with this is, with a good sophomore release, is if it's not as good, if it's close to being as good and different, then it's like, well, that's fine. Van Halen 2 would be an example of that. Van Halen 2 is not as good as Van Halen 1, but it's different and it's got different things, and that makes it essential because it's part of a journey. You know, this album, obviously got a magazine came out after this, which is a mismatch, but it's got some 5 really great tunes on it. And then Dog and Butterflies is probably my favourite, and I'll cover that next year for its 45th anniversary. But Little Queen, 45 years old today. You know, if you're wanting to delve into Heart, it's early Heart, it's not a bad place to start, but I'd probably go Dreamboat first and then this. Hope you enjoyed that. Remember to share and subscribe if you enjoy these classic album reviews, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.